It is the Blue Room. It is Blue Monday. I am Matt Jones, joined as ever by Dave Downey. Of course, this is a Tuesday, because we had the distinct pleasure, Dave, of watching Everton play football yesterday. Game for the ages, 1-1 against Crystal Palace. How are you feeling about the football match we watched 24 hours-ish on?
Well, much better since the sarcasm you've had saying that, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't
Do you
know.
know
I
what?
think,
I woke up this morning and I had a headache from watching that. Like
yeah,
genuinely. Like, do you know, it's just
um,
one of those games where you just get so frustrated and like angry that you get like a build up of tension like right there, like pointing at me forehead for people who aren't watching this on YouTube. It's just like just so hard the entire thing. Just such a pain to go through.
yeah. No, I think that's spot on, and also really sadly, I watched most of it back because I recorded it. And also, I was thinking back a lot to what Mark Mosey said as well, which I agreed a lot to. If anybody hasn't listened to it yet, I'd implore you to go and listen to it. More in regards to the attitude of Dyche and how he's tried to sort things out, the way in which the team's set up. I think a lot as well with having gone back and watched it with a little bit of I don't know, looking back on it with a different view, some sort of perspective. There was a little bit better than watching the game live. I didn't think specifically there was that much wrong with what the players were doing. It's more what they appear to have been instructed to do by Dyche. And look, I don't want to double up going into them now, but it has been the past few games where this has become a familiar issue to talk about. Is with Dyche here and how we're playing, and it infuriated me. I don't know if you've seen it yourself. Well, you will have. His post-match comments. It's the type of thing that we've felt with previous managers that just hits that point inside of you where you think this just doesn't feel right, and I don't mean in terms of look, this fella needs sacking right now, and this is where I refer to Mosey and what he said after the game yesterday. It's not like we're all sitting here screaming for him to lose his job, but again, looking back at it, I'm thinking surely a professional Premier League manager has to come up with something different than what he did. I seen the stat today as well, Matt. I'm not sure if you've seen it yourself, where it's the most 17 duels that Calvert-Lewin won in the air. Nobody's ever done as much of that in a Premier League game, which I think it gives you an indication as to what the issue is. If you get nobody in and around him, surely the manager's got to take some responsibility for that. I mean, you can't automatically blame Calvert-Lewin as much as he's been a lot of the headlines of our discussion in recent weeks. Look, there are problems with him, but at the same time, it's not just him. So I feel like it's been a familiar question that we've had on many of our shows recently, whether how far do you put Dyche into blaming the way we are and the results we're getting and the performances? How much is that compared to the way the players are? And after looking back on that game, I can't help but feel that Dyche has upped the percentage that I sort of feel that this is as much down to him as everybody else we have on the pitch.
Yeah, I think there are some things that we know for definite now, with like it being over a year since he come in, and he's still not won a game from a losing position since we had him. The record without Decore is obviously he was back last night, but the record without Decore is appalling. And I think the other thing as well is that just in general, whether we're losing or drawing, it's so obvious that when there's an onus on us to get on the ball and make things happen for ourselves in the final third, that there is no plan whatsoever. Like if Jordan say you're watching the game last night and just any one of the number of times that Jordan Pickford gets hold of the ball, be it from a goal kick or he's got it, just from a breakdown in play. Like there's no idea of like, right, we're gonna set up like this to
Mm.
get the ball from here to here to here, and that's how we're gonna get into the opposition penalty box, or that's how we're gonna have a shot, or that's how we're gonna have a score, how we're gonna score a goal. Like it feels like it's just it's one or two things happen really. Either Pickford gets it and rushes out towards the edge of his box and levers it forward, or it slows down and it ends up at the feet of Tarkovsky and he just launches it across the pitch
Yeah, yeah.
60, 70 yards. And he played some really good passes last night, to be fair, but there were other times where he just went out for a goal kick at the for the other team. And you just sort of pulling your hair off, thinking, what are we doing here? Um, and listen, like I don't know how much training they do and all that, but like if I had to guess, it seemed to me that like 70% of the stuff they do, like preparing for match, would be on shape and set pieces.
Yeah,
Right? That feels like it's got to be right because it feels like the more, and again, like been here a year now, so I think it's fair to judge on this. But if it's like the more Dyche has kind of got his feet under the table and imprinted his mark on this team, and perhaps what's coincided with that is that the players have got knackered and the squad's been run into the ground, and that might be a mitigating factor. But it feels to me like Everton couldn't score that goal he scored against Newcastle to make it 3-0 now. I don't think.
yeah, that's a good point.
Like
That's really,
if and again, I know the circumstances of that game are a bit different. We were 2-0 up at that point, but imagine Everton putting a passing move together like that now. It feels like watching a completely different team, doesn't it?
yeah.
Um,
It doesn't feel like the players should be capable of doing that now as well, really, which is much
no,
of the same as what you've said there. But just on the point you've made about it was either who forward from Pickford or it was that diagonal from Tarkovsky. And like you said, it's not his fault he's playing decent diagonals, but you're looking at it going to. It reminds me of rugby a little bit. You know, when you see rugby sides kick the ball up to try and get an advantage of how many yards they want to get into, as far as they can towards the post of the opposition. It feels like that to me sometimes. And that's where I have a little bit of sympathy with McNeil, who again looks like somebody who's been on his arse, how tired he is. Harrison the other side when he's been on Ashley Young as well for some reason they're going that side. Not exactly tall lads who are going to win headers in towards Calvert-Lewin or control it and get past their fullbacks. But I feel as if like that, if that's your go-to tactic, what are you expecting from those lads there? They've got to win 50-50 headers against the fullbacks of the opposition, and then what? You're getting a throw in at best, or
mm,
you get a jammy corner or something like that, and you're getting the team like 50-60 yards up the pitch. Where's the sense in that?
yeah. Well, that's how we're doing it at the moment, isn't it? Like that's how we're scoring goals. And the other stat that emerged last night, which is very alarming, was that it's 10 games without us scoring from open play. The last time we scored from open play in the league was Harrison's goal against Man City, which is wild, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just one of them where it feels like there's no other
Oh,
way of doing it, is there? Like it is set piece or nothing at the moment, and like sometimes that works, and like we're lucky we're quite good at set pieces. I mean, to quote Murs last night, lucky we've got a lot of massive lads who we can just lash the ball into. But I think we sort of said this after the City game, didn't we? And like didn't want to go too much in on it because it's Man City, but Pep played all his big lads, didn't he? And
yeah.
sort of negotiated any kind of threat we had from set pieces because of that. 'Cause he played four centre backs. I don't think it was any coincidence that they played a back three last night and had the extra big lad there at the back to try and deal with our set pieces. And I think maybe teams like Brighton don't necessarily do this because they're so wedded to one particular style of play. But you look at teams coming up like Brentford and Sheffield United, maybe Burnley to a lesser extent. Forest certainly a one. Like you, I think all you do against them, like I reckon, Dave, I could coach most teams in this league to not lose a game against Everton because you know all the secrets now, don't you? It's like don't
Yeah.
give cheap fouls away around the box, don't give corners away, and play the biggest players you've got in your team, and sit in because they don't know what to do with the ball in open play, and if you can stop the set piece the supply and if you can stop the set pieces when you do actually concede them, then you're going to be fine because they can't we can't do anything else, and like the stats bear that out. And I think it's as the confidence is sort of waned from the players in terms of their open play and being able to create things, like McNeil, like Harrison, even James Garner to a degree as well. We've just gone to such a basic style of play. Like
Yeah.
there were times like I do catch myself sometimes at the match, like that situation you said there where we kick it forward for Tarkovsky and it goes out for a throw in and we can like get everyone over and box them in. Like I applaud that sometimes now at the match. It's like oh my
Is
god,
that how grim
like
it's got?
is this what it's come to? Like
Yeah.
you're applauding us losing the ball so we can put it in the corner and press everybody up and you know Yeah, the manager's not got it easy, has he? Obviously, like, the squad is bad and it's stretched, and he could have done with maybe a couple of plays in January to freshen them up because
Yeah.
it looks a bit stale, and we are seeing the same thing every week now. But he's not far off having his best 11, is he, at the moment? He's probably, well, in fact, he's probably got it, hasn't he? Really? Maybe
Yeah.
Coleman is the only one who's, that you'd say would play from our best 11 last night. Obviously, Nana was on the bench. So he's got to find something. And you think back to last season, it was like McNeil came to the fore, Decore came to the fore, Yerry Mina came into the team and had a massive impact. Where are those lads going to come from this year? That's the worry for me.
I think that's spot on the entire assessment you give there. I think there is a slight issue with a put from what you've said there. There is an asterisk you sort of put next to his name about what else he can actually do. And yeah, I think it's hard to say this, but there's a level of sympathy that we were unable to get anybody in. But then
And I think as well, just as well, Dave, sorry, should have said, like, I
yeah,
think it also is a lot easier for him if his best striker scores one of the two massive chances he has last night. Like,
yeah,
that makes everything a lot easier, and we're talking about things maybe in a different way as well.
yeah. Well, yeah, and that's a mentality thing as well, isn't it? It's like a cliche, isn't it? As soon as someone gets a goal, whichever way they get a goal, then that's it. Then everything's open then, and they're looking a lot more confident, and you probably go on a little bit of a run where you're getting like 4 or 5 in the next 10 or something like that. And look, the stick that and I'm as responsible as most of the people really in giving Calvert-Lewin stick. I mentioned there at the start of what we were talking about, and you know, uh, he's having to win his own duels and then chase the ball himself. And I'm not too sure how Dice gets around that, putting Corey back in. I thought we might see a little bit more success with that. But going on the point there of what squad you've got to choose from, the players you've got to choose from. I think we were speaking about Dobbins, somebody who should have been brought on automatically for Ashley Young, or on the other side with McNeil. Just do something different. It's so predictable. Going back to your point that you said there, if you're training for Evan at the weekend, you're thinking, yeah, you go measure someone there and say, yeah, who's the tallest lad there? Just put him on, and we'll be absolutely fine. Probably not going to concede a goal. We have no other way of playing through a midfield. You've got a midfield that essentially you're trying to win the ball back. And generally, they're okay at doing that, winning the ball back, but it's like someone will get it, and then they're like looking around to see, well, what's next, and it'll either go back to Brantwaite or Tarkovsky or to Pickford, or it'll go side to one of our fullbacks or wingers, and then just get brought back anyway. It's those stats, which Mike Greenall will be somebody to look at with all of those sort of things, with XGs and all that sort of thing, in regards to how we actually move the ball forward. And there's any sort of attitude within those players that they've been told to do. And it goes back to the point you made there about training. What are they actually doing in there for him to come out with the plans that we've got? Because it's all well and good saying, any manager saying, look, we've gone with what I've asked this side to do, which clearly they have done. But when it's repeated, how many games is it since we've won? Is it that 1 in 10 we've won now? Is it something like
The last
that?
time we won was Burnley on, I think,
Yeah.
was that before Christmas? Yeah.
Yeah, so having a FA Cup one. That feels a long, long time ago, doesn't it? That Burnley game at home. Now, what I said there, and I think it's very easy for us to say, oh, well, just look at the bench and we've got nobody there. But look at when Gomez came in, and I know he's out injured now. Dan Juma was sitting there as well. The pair of them were sort of on the side of the pitch having a laugh and a joke last night. And, even when they were fit, we see in 2 games from Gomez when he was brought in. Dan Juma was somebody who permanently was coming off bench. I think he's only started 2 or 3 games since he came on. I'm not lauding these guys. I'm not saying, these need to start because they should be in our first 11. But when you're in a position that we are, and we just seem to be falling further and further down the rabbit hole, put one of those 2 lads on, change something. The one thing I was thrown at, thinking a slight bit of credit for him, was when he put Beto next to Calvert-Lewin, which is something that we've spoken about again before, saying that there's no interest in that. I couldn't think that that'd be any worse. But that was something else he actually turned to. And look, don't get me wrong, I have sympathy with the man. I do have sympathy with him. But I just don't understand our manager of his caliber, which is this sort of thing. These situations with him right now is where he's made his career. Look what he did at Burnley. we are in that exact situation now, and he found a way of getting out of it. He found a way with average to championship players that he got to stay in the Premier League for several years. He's in that position with us now, and I think it'd be the most tedious study that you did if you went back and looked at how he did with Burnley to keep them in the Premier League.
Well, what we feel like Dyche is Burnley now. Last night, like that was like the last 10 minutes, or when the Beto come on about 20 minutes to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Like I was just sat there, I was like, this is like Wooden Barnes.
Mate, I said
Like,
the exact same thing. If you look at my Twitter this morning, I said if you didn't know, if that was in black and white, you could bet the team that were playing at home would be in claret and blue and at Turf Moor. That it'd just be exactly the same. And that's where there's a limitation for what he's got. I think he was ideal to come in as our manager last season, given that we needed solidity and we needed exactly that sort of Everton mentality we had in years gone by, where you scrap and when your back's against the wall and all those sort of cliche things we've come to, and the sentiment that goes along with it. But come on, you've got to have something else. You've got to have something else, regardless of the side you've got. Now, if you look back when he was at Burnley, he's still doing the things that he's trying to do with us. But you need to remember that that ended, didn't it? They got relegated and he got sacked. Well, he got sacked just before they got
yeah,
relegated 2 years ago, and he's persisted with that with us. So, look, going as far again, referring to what Mo said on the post match, can you go as far as saying you look for somebody else? And I don't think I go along that.
no,
That
I'm not there yet.
No, but I don't go along that theory anyway. Given the alternative, he's switching in between, given the alternatives that he's got to play with. I understand that.
And it's like it's
Weird,
just
Sean. You've got to give us something else.
it's just a really hard thing to assess like fully as well, because we should be 12. But it's
Yeah,
like, would we be 12 if we didn't have the deduction, or would we be better, or would we be doing worse? Like, would we be playing better football? Would the pressure be off? Like, based on what Mo said last night in regards to would because we're safe, would the new owners potentially come in and think, well, we want to play a different style of football. Let's move this fella on. Like, there's just like there's never been a situation like this ever where since we've been watching football where you're looking at a team and a set of players and a manager, and how do you assess them? Like,
mm,
really? Like, I mean, the style of football is evidently and undeniably crap. Like that is one thing, but like,
yeah,
is this good now? Is he doing a good job given we should be 12? Would you look at it and think, well, actually, like now the situation we are where we are when we've fallen back in,
mm,
we've not done well. Like it's just all so hard. And like I think when we got this points deduction, we said, or certainly on a show recently, like this is like taking one of the predators out of the Serengeti. And when like or like people who study all that say, if you took this animal or whatever out of the entire surround, like the entire surrounding would change
yeah.
completely, and there'd be like a huge ripple effect that you wouldn't even be able to quantify or predict. And like this is kind of like what we're in now, because like all of a sudden, like you're thinking, is the appeal process dragging on, getting on the players? I saw Tarkovsky and James Garner in the press today saying, it is sort of hanging around a bit too much now, and like some people might say it's excuses, but it's one of them as well where you sort of think, well, it probably is, because in some sense, like they'll look at that and they'll look at games like Fulham away and Spurs at home and last night, and like in normal circumstances, you'd say that like a point's fine if we get points back, but is it fine? We don't know if it's fine. Like, is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? Like, I just think it's like I think it mentally they all must be in a really weird place, and I think that makes it quite difficult to kind of get a full assessment on it. Like, if that makes sense.
That's why I'm shaking my head at what you referred to there in these presses today, like Garner saying that sort of thing. I think it's just, regardless whether it's true or not, it's just something a player shouldn't really be saying.
And he also went down the don't boo us route, which obviously triggered the usual
Yeah.
reaction.
And that's always like, you just buying us doing that again. Now you've just doubled up on it there. But I'm not sure you've learned or had a look at the room that you're in there, James, because you know what's going to happen now with saying that sort of thing, and it has some sort of effect on them. But yeah, what you originally said there about the 10 points, there's obviously a massive mentality issue with that. I initially thought when it happened, along with many Blues, that this would be the thing that sort of made us kick on. It gave us an extra edge on how desperate we were for points to get out of the position we're in with minus the 10 that we've got and the injustice that's been happening and things like that. And then I have been surprised there's been a certain lack of how we've played, a lack of how much ambition we've thrown into these games. And look, I don't want to sell all of them off here, but that doesn't feel to me. You remember those? Don't say remember in the last two seasons. You think of Palace at home 3-2. Think of Decore at home to Bournemouth. That season to me, remembering back on it, Goodison was in a far better place than it is right now. And with
I don't
that,
know. I don't
I
know
don't
about
think
that.
so.
No, I just think it's like the same, to be honest. Like I remember game like in the first season when we went down. I remember like games like Wolves at home where we got beat 1-0 and
Yeah. I know, but what I mean, what I mean more in a general way is, as you know, we've got to take points here. We have to take 3 points to stay in the division eventually. That's when Goodison notoriously is at its best, isn't it? When we're on our arse.
mm,
That feels and needs to be recognised as something that is at this stage of the season right now, not when we're 10, 11 games further down the line, and then we need the 3 points to stay up. That's got to be thrown in there now, whether you think you're getting 10 points back or not. And I think Dice was quoted about the 10 point thing, saying we're going to receive it at some point. We don't really know what it is. I think that it's going to be difficult. Look, it'd be impossible telling those lads who work there that, well, these 10 points, you need to get it out the back of your mind and whatnot. But is it that difficult, do you think, for them to have that as something that kicks them on a little bit further? Would you get,
it's just
I'd
like
expect to get more out of players than that. Maybe that's a little bit cliche what I'm saying there, because you've been had off with a load of stuff there. You've been had off where we'd be in mid-table and things like that. Goes back to the point you made there was, do you still think we'd be in that position if we didn't have the 10 points off? Would be even worse. And we'll be just sort of arsing around thinking that, oh, we don't really need to care about going down this season. I think that's quite the enigma. That it's a hard thing to compare with what we'd be doing if we had those points. So, that remains to be seen if we get anything back or not. But the professional footballers, Matt, they shouldn't be. That should
yeah,
never even be
that
mentioned.
that
He might be
doesn't make
saying
them
that
immune.
close to us. He
Yeah,
might be saying he's going to be sitting there in Finch Farm saying, "Oh, lads, we're on our arse here. We've played much better than this, and we should be getting treated a hell of a lot better than this because we've had 10 points taken off us and all sitting down and all that." Yes, the immediate thing he's going to say is that, well, it's time now for Everton to show who they are, the club that we are, do all the usual stereotypical things that have been associated with our club. But it looks to me like it's anti that when I'm watching us play,
mm,
because I don't see the levels of commitments we've been in when we've been so desperate in these situations. And for that to be happening at this stage of the season, when we've got what left? 13 games?
yeah.
You've got 13 games left and you're in this sort of shit right now. That makes me quite scared, to be honest with you, Matt. And the alternatives we've got there, like we've spoken of, is well, there's virtually nothing really you can do about it in terms of selection and formation and whatnot. He needs to try something different, or whatever it is.
I think that's interesting. Like I know what you're saying. Like they are professional footballers, but like they will still think and feel and have opinions and get ground down by
Yeah,
stuff. I like
yeah.
let me just like ask you like when someone wants to talk to you about Everton's points deduction, like in general, like on these shows or in you know in work or with your family or whatever. If someone says, "Oh, Everton's points deduction," like what do you think straight away? Because I know what I think.
That's a really good question, actually.
I just think
I
can't
don't
be
go.
arsed talking about this. I'm fed up. I'm so fed up with all of this. Like I don't want to talk about
I'm
Super
not sure that.
Silco or Richard Masters or
Yeah,
I don't want to have to read through that document. Like
yeah,
bless him, Patrick Ridge has done it 3 or 4 times. He knows it back to
yeah,
front. Like I'm just so fed up of it. And like if I'm fed up of it, like I'm sure they all are as well. Like
yeah. I
because they
mean,
get asked about it all the time. Like I'm
yeah,
sure they speak about it all the time at Finch Farm, and it's got nothing to do with any of them. Like
no,
realistically, and like I imagine like maybe we used it to galvanize ourselves when we got it first and foremost. Who knows? But now I imagine they just think, oh my God, let's just get this out the way. let's get this done, and then let's get the next one done, which we won't talk about right now. But it's like I'm sure everybody just wants it done, and like you said there, and the word you used in regards to our position is desperate. Like, can you be fully desperate if you don't know you're desperate? If you don't know you're in a desperate situation? Like, isn't desperation by definition you're out of you're out of most other options and you're really striving. Like, are we in a desperate? Like, we don't know, do we? Like, we don't know if we're in a desperate situation because we're still waiting for this retrospective
But
action on a deduction we've had. Like,
that's the problem I've got with with Daesh. I was going to say Slick anyway, but that's the problem I've got with Daesh here. That he's a manager you very much think who can get that in people's mind that this is not something that we should feel sorry for ourselves about. That when I say that word desperate, um, for him that word shouldn't be included in anything he says to these lads. What I've meant by desperate is this is this isn't something that's never existed towards a club apart from when Leeds went down 20 odd years ago or whatever, and Middlesbrough when they got those deductions of whatever it was that time, and they didn't have enough players to put out. This is unique. This hasn't happened before. Now, where I'm saying desperate is we need to play like we've got. Well, where we are right now, you've got to play like nothing else is going to happen, Matt. You can't look at this thinking, and like what you've rightly said, there is a fact. We don't know what's going to happen. But surely the most simple thing to do is to play as if it has had nothing's going to change, and we're minus 10 points. I think that was the thing that Dice, not
but
verbatim.
can you manufacture that level of desperation?
Well, I
Like,
think
is that something you can create?
I don't think it's something you can create, but I certainly think it's something that, particularly again with a manager like Sean Dyche, and I couldn't pick much better than him in regards to what he's done with Burnley and all that sort of thing, where you're looking at effectively a crap team and he's kept him in the Premier League by all means necessary. I think, look, as human beings, like I said, the professionals, but as human beings, there's no way they don't walk into training saying, do you know what? If we had those 10 points, it's our loss on us. We shouldn't be here. We played well. We had them 4 wins on the spin. We could have easily been maybe even fighting for something like Europe, if this sort of shit didn't happen to us. But there's a point where it happens, man. There's a point where, like, in everyday life, you get to desperate moments where you've got to do something. You have to do something to alter what's going on here. And I think what you've said there, and I'm talking my way into here, is having a little bit more sympathy for Dyche. Because it must be something that's unprecedented for him to have to talk about this. Him saying, do you know what, lads? But the best effort has to be to eliminate it from these lads. And when you're saying it, it's impossible. It probably is impossible to do that. Because when they come off and they've lost the game, or yesterday they're getting booed off the pitch at a 1-1 draw, you feel like turning to fans and think, come on, fucking hell, we're trying our hardest here, lads, and we shouldn't be anywhere near this position. I get that, and we'd be like that as people if that was us as professional players. We'd be like that. So I'm not trying to sound like I'm sounding like a hypocrite there, but it has to change, is what I'm trying to say. You can't use that as a justification of the way things are with us right now, because we've got to find something else. To stay in this division, you have to accept that that's never, ever going to come back. I know it's difficult. I know all you hear in the press every day is, we're waiting for the court to decide this, whatever comes next, the new owners and whatnot. There has to be a way from somebody, somewhere. Ian Wall, Steve Stone, decent professional footballers there. I love the fact that they rhyme as well, because you can make a good song. You've got Sean Dyche there. You've got lads there, particular Dyche again, and I've praised him quite a lot here when I probably didn't want to. His history as a manager it's stereotypical in that he's this hard fella who's on the line all the time, who's more than happy to get results of as difficult as possible and play shit football. Well, that's what he got. That's what he's got at his disposal. Ironically, you've got to keep it that mentality rather than saying, "Oh, we might get a few points back and whatnot." It'd be great if we turn around tomorrow and 10 o'clock we get the embargo saying that Everton have been given 3-4 points back, whatever it is, and they give us a nice 6-point cushion to the bottom three. can you carry on your life like that? No, but I appreciate what you're saying and how difficult it is and how hard it is to answer that question of, well, you're sort of twixt in between here. We've done well, we're unjustified here. But the main thing that needs to be the head of it all is do what you absolutely can do to try and sort this out, regardless of 10 points or not.
And I'd hazard a guess as well that those conversations that you talk about, like players saying, "This is nothing to do with us. Are we going to get these points back? This is shite," etc., etc. The ground is very
It's,
fertile for those conversations to be happening now, isn't it? Like this, if they're going to happen, they'll be happening this week when we're on a bad run. We didn't win a game we should have won. They played terribly. The appeals still not back. The fans booed them off to a degree. This week they'll be rocking. I think they'll be rocking up for training tomorrow, and there'll be some lads there who would be feeling sorry for themselves because when you think about all of that, which you just said, being poured into the situation, it would be dead easy to feel like that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's really got to lift some of them this week, going into a game at the weekend where obviously we won there last season in a ridiculous way, but it's going to be a really tough match. So I think he's got a huge job to do this week because as much as he can say all the right things, which he tends to do, and he speaks in a positive way. I think he's going to have to lift a lot of those lads this week, and I think little things like what James Garner said about the fans booing them, I think maybe is a bit of an insight into the kind of chats that they're going to be having, and yeah, it's going to be tough because I think a lot of people looking at Brighton and just sort of going, "Oh, we'll beat them again." And it's like, obviously we absolutely smashed them last season, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's gonna be a tricky game. It's gonna be a really tricky game that, and if you don't go and win there, you get
yeah,
into March then before you've got a chance of winning another football match, and it's really really difficult. But to sort of bring this round fully from Dyche back to Dyche, I just think this week is going to be a big test of his man management skills. I think he's going to have to lift a lot of those lads, and he's going to have to try and get their mindset in a place, like you said there. Try and forget about the deduction. Try and forget about the bad form. Try and find some way of scoring a goal. It's going to be a huge test, I think, of his managerial abilities.
yeah. Well, let's me forget. Let's not forget there that this is the type of thing people are saying it should be a positive. The fact that how many times you go back to pens that haven't been
That's why I'm
given.
sick of talking about it.
I know you go back to like penalties that don't get given. You go back to moaning about VAR and all the injustices with that. That should be an inspiration to be right. Fuck this. We need to just alter this ourselves. And like you said, David, what Garner said, I think that epitomises where they are right now. And look at what you're saying there, coming full circle to Dyche, he should be the perfect manager you have in altering these lads and getting them in the right attitude to go somewhere like Brighton. Not to go and beat them 5-1 again. I don't think that's going to happen. But as soon as we met up in the Denby to do the post match, as soon as a senior, I got the list out of the home games to come. Palace was one I thought we pretty much guaranteed. We pretty much needed the 3 against them, given what else we've got coming up. The last 4 home games are going to, regardless if we've got 10 points or not, that's going to keep us in the Premier League or not. Going away from home, I feel there's a fear going away from home, Matt. Whereas earlier this season, we were like, this is great, because we're playing miles better when we go away from home. I think Brighton away is a really tough place to go to. They've started getting their act together again, looking for a European place. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to have optimism going there. But, it's we didn't expect us to get a win there last year, did we, at
Yeah, but
all?
I think they're going to have to do a similar performance to Fulham away, aren't they? Like it feels like it's
Yeah.
going to have to be that type of because I think that Brighton are obviously better than Fulham, I think, but it's going to be a similar type of game, I imagine, where we have none of the ball, we have to dig in, and we have to just try and take our chances wherever we can. Like at least we'll have some midfielders fit for this one, like Fulham
Is
as
that not
McNeil.
ironic, though? Is that not ironic what you said there? And it's absolutely right there. We seem to be at our best when we're defending for 70-80% of a game.
Well, that's what we're set up to do, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly right. And when you say the draw against Palace at home was unacceptable given the condition that Palace were in there with Hodgson and their best players not there. That's a crime not to get 3 points against them at home, absolutely. But when you think about games where you're happy to go and get a draw from, right away, if you'd offered me a point now, I'd absolutely take it.
Yeah,
And and that feels to me like it's doable when you've got a back four and a goalkeeper that can play against most teams in the Premier League and not concede a goal. The other end of it is just going to be something we can talk about to the nth degree of how much of a, you know, creating chances is an issue, how much we've got a striker who's out of form. That should be secondary to, well, we've got four decent defenders there. We've got a lad there, centre back, who you're screaming to play for England, though most people are. You've got somebody else who's an England international. You've got a cracking left back there who's been one of our players of the season. You've got Seamus around there. You've got Patterson who doesn't get a game. You've got Godfrey who played well the other night. That five lads at the back there probably as much or more responsibility of those ahead of them to get us any sort of result wherever we go.
yeah, should be interesting. I think they'll be well up for it as well on
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah.
Given what happened. So, but yeah, I fancy to go there and certainly to get something. Win would be amazing, obviously, but I could easily see us go there and getting a draw. But we're gonna have to win a football match at some point, aren't we?
Well, maybe we've got our mates Liverpool against Luton, and they need to do us a favour tomorrow night. So
And they've got like so many injuries, haven't they? You're looking at it and I'm thinking, oh God.
yeah,
But
watch Ross Barkley. Ross Barkley did nothing in a Merseyside derby. Watch him rip Liverpool apart tomorrow night.
oh God, yeah. I'm a little bit worried about that game. Especially the cup final at the weekend. They've got a lot of
Yeah.
injuries. Like, you know,
It'll
maybe,
happen when they cough it up and they look like they're going to win the league. It'll be the time to happen when it does us in. That's just the way things work, isn't it?
yeah. Any other team at home, I'd fancy them, but I'm just looking at that tomorrow night thinking, I could see that being a draw, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, we'll see. I can't bring myself to say anything positive or encouraging about Liverpool, but
yeah.
it would be nice one day if we were still in the
Yeah,
outside the bottom three come the weekend. On
yeah.
the same game played as well, wouldn't we then? With Luton as well.
That's the better thing as well, because you look at that back 4 or 5, which I tend to look at every 5 minutes on my phone. That Luton game in hand, plus the fact we've got to go down there, is the thing that really scares me much more than anything else, really. Because trying to drag Forest into it, we've got to win against West Ham. Trying to get Brentford into another playing City tonight, they're probably going to lose that. But and then Palace, they're like they're like 4 or 5 points ahead of us. To me, it looks hard to get 4 or 5 points that gets near them at the moment. So it just looks like it's Luton at the moment and ourselves who are battling for this.
Yeah, let's see how it goes anyway.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed City do beat Brentford. Last time we did one of these on Monday night, we were saying, oh, we hope City would smash Brentford. And it came off the call and Mope had scored and Brentford won 1-0 up. So let's hope it's not a repeat of that. Anyway, but yeah, we'll wrap it up there this week. Blue Tuesday. We're back later in the week with our usual stuff, building up to that game against Brighton at the weekend. Fingers crossed we can finally get that win. But cheers to Dave. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff. It really helps. And up the top, please.